the name of the values that keep you alive, do not let your vision of man be distorted by the ugly, the cowardly, the mindless, and those who have never achieved his title. Do not lose your knowledge that man's proper estate is an upright posture, an intransigent mind, and a step that travels on limited roads. Do not let your fire go out. Spark might replace the spark, and the hopeless swamps of the approximate, the not quite, the not yet, the not at all. The world you desired can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It's yours.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Crypto Economy Podcast. I'm here with Tim Karsliyev. He is the founder of Daily Dose. Thanks so much for being here, Tim.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. And you did not butcher my last name, bro. I was like, good job, bro. That's all I got to say.
Well, where's that last name from? I remember on your last podcast you said you were half Armenian, I think.
Yes, half Armenian, half Greek, but the last name itself has nothing to do with any one of those guys. So, it's the history behind it, just to keep it short and simple, is back in the day, around 1915, when a genocide was happening, both for the Armenians and the Greeks. So again, I don't know all the major details, but basically, they decided to change the name, the last name, to Survive or something like that. Sounds like, for my generation to not be, I guess, killed. Yeah, so they changed the last name so it blended in.
Yeah. I mean, mine doesn't blend in too well, so.
Yeah. So, but other than that, just never changed it. My dad never did, but his sisters and stuff changed it.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I mean, I guess just to sort of jump right in, it'd be great if maybe you could go over a little bit of your background, the pages you run, and how you sort of got started with all of it.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Daily Dose. I'm also a co-founder of Gentleman's Mafia, Impact Billions. End of 2014, I was in healthcare for about 10 years, and somehow I ended up getting on social media, which was just for, shits and giggles. Didn't realize it was actually one of the best things that actually I was getting into.
Yeah.
I had no idea at the time, but I was in healthcare for about 10 years at the time. I was a senior executive for about 6 years of it in the health industry, and it was all about bureaucrats and all the, you know how it is when you go to corporate, when you go to school or anything in that sort, you're thinking about, hey, stepping up into the corporate world and, the ladder, and you want to climb up to the best and this and that, but it's just hella boring. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a lucrative industry. Some people love it, but to me, I just got really tired of it. I was super passionate about it. And in 2015, I actually went full on to social media. Some of the accounts that I do own, also in the same time, as I also own Gentleman's Mafia, Billionaire Inc., Visualize Wealth. There's a lot. I don't want to go into every single detail, but it's kind of like, but Daily Dose is actually the main source for me right now, biggest one I have.
Yeah, a lot of those accounts, they're accounts I've been following for a while. I'd wake up every morning, I'd scroll through, and I'd be like, all right, I'm sitting around, I got to go do something. So it served, a lot of inspiration just in my case alone. And back to some of the medical stuff. So when my dad's side of the family fled Lebanon during the Civil War, and they came here as refugees, and then my dad started LA Orthopedic Center. So he was an orthopedic surgeon. So I worked there, every summer, and I did an internship at a biologics company. I helped write a nanotechnology textbook. My aunt's an ER doctor at Huntington Hospital. So I've been around the medical industry, and I definitely feel there's way too much bureaucracy once you've been there. But we'll get into that a little bit more later, I think. So when you started these pages, what was the goal you had in mind? Were you trying to inspire people? Were you just trying to build a community? What was sort of the idea you had?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, in the beginning, it was just literally, how everybody gets on social media, they're posting their food and their selfies and things like that. So I thought social media was the opportunity for me to meet some women, because I was busy, like all that. Like, I mean, obviously I didn't use any of those dating apps, but I just thought, hey, post some pictures, get some likes, Maybe some girl out there might like you or something,
Get that dopamine hit.
But but other than that, I remember I had 60 followers, to be honest with you. And it was just literally I was putting out pictures of me, and then somehow I started putting motivational content, like very aggressive content too. Like, no one gives a shit about you. Do something with your life. Who gives a shit? Stop being petty. No one's gonna be there to help you out. You got to make yourself. Like things like that. Very aggressive. And then now now I still have that, but except it's a lot more, nicer, a little more inspirational, positive.
Yeah.
Not as aggressive, but I knew that people were totally consuming the information I was putting out there. So I realized, like, holy shit, people like this stuff. And at the same time, I was in a corporate world. So
yeah,
it made sense when I was in a corporate, because the corporate world was really aggressive. Nobody, really cared. You failed, sorry, peace out.
Yep.
We're going to hire somebody else to do the job. Or, if you're the CEO, you fail, sorry, we're going to find a new CEO. So the aggressive put in there. And it worked out really well because, what I did is, at the same time, when I realized I was really small, I realized at the same time there was other people doing it. Like Steve Mehez, one of my partners, Jason from Millionaire Mentor, Before 5 a.m., Build Your Empire, Achieve Impossible, School for Success. I mean, I can't even think of all the names. Farrakh from Mr. Good Life, like, all these guys. So I reached out and said, hey, we need to create a network. And we were all small. I think I was the smallest from everyone, in a sense, maybe. So we just started growing together. We started collaborating together, and real quick, within a year, we just had probably massive growth in 2015.
So do you know why that growth sort of started? Do you think once you sort of get to a certain amount, it just spreads fairly easily, or do you think it was the network that got you there?
So the network did a lot. For sure. It spread aside, because I think at that time there was only 200 million users. And then within 2 years, it went to like 800 million users. It went like crazy. So we caught a nice little wave of capturing the market cap, But at the same time, I did spend a lot of money growing and expanding the brand itself, reaching other people,
So what were you spending? Were you using like Facebook ads, or were you
No, not at all. It was really literally I was paying other large accounts who were in the millions to actually represent my brand out, spread it out.
Yeah, because it seems like, we did the whole Facebook ad thing back when we launched our first company. I think that was 2014. And, we had a nightmarish time trying to get just our product in front of people. And it really seemed like there was this disconnect between the people who had these pages with millions of followers and products. So, I mean, that was sort of my next question, was going to be, how have you guys found ways to monetize, your following without running a lot of obnoxious ads and without needing to data mine the hell out of them, for example?
Yeah, well, I mean, Instagram is, when you have a large account, especially us, and we had a massive network, it was easy to grow brands. For example, when Gary Vee and Ty Lopez and Andy Frisella and all those guys were jumping on to social media, we were already big at the time. DJ Khaled and all those cats, so they were reaching out to us to actually promote them.
Yeah.
And when I was running massive campaigns for them.
I see. So a lot of those guys kind of got their start with your help, you'd say.
I would say, yeah, most definitely. They contacted us because we were literally in the business community. And the business community that we own actually is the most expensive network on social media. It's the most, we probably charge the most money.
Really? Is that because you think your audience is more likely to be engaged, or they're more likely to buy things? Or?
Well, our audience is not, basically we're not posting bullshit, we're not posting comedy, we're, all the time, even though we do have some humor,
Yeah.
But it is a very mature crowd that's looking forward to doing something with their lives.
And
it's not like, just a funny video, let me tag my friend. Or, hey, it's not like this, something happened, like some disaster videos, like scary. None of that stuff. It was like literally motivation, inspiration, do something with your life. So people were more connecting to that stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. More entrepreneurs, more people who are, going places.
Yeah, in the business community, basically, And the funny thing is we have Apple executives that follow us. We have celebrities, Oscar-winning celebrities who follow us. So it's pretty, we have kings and princes from Dubai and different countries. Like, it's pretty crazy. We're blown away, actually, by who follows. Like, LL Cool J follows us.
Wow.
I've had DMX. I've had Scott Disick, from the Kardashian side of the family. Like, repost my stuff. Snoop Dogg. P. Diddy. I've done work for P. Diddy when he launched his his movie about his life on Apple did that. So I mean, we worked with a lot of brands.
Yeah, and that's something I've noticed. Your branding is really great. You've done a good job of sort of pigeonholing what people are looking for and figuring out a way to display it in a way that engages people and motivates them. I remember sending those videos to all my co-founders when we were working late nights, or all the pictures, and I think it's really helpful to a lot of people. Do you get a lot of people reaching out and, you know?
Yeah, we get a lot. I get a lot of people. I'm not going to use the we because I'm pretty sure everybody else does too. I get a lot of people who reach out to me. I probably have right now, if I even go through the DMs just within one of my channels, there's probably at least 1,000 DMs in there that I haven't had a chance to respond to. And I try to respond to people as much as I can. So it's also the ripple effect. The bigger you get, the more people want to contact you, the more they want to utilize you. But I've actually changed my style of working with people that if they're not spending at least $1,000 within our brand, I don't want to waste my time for $100, or $200 or $300.
Sure.
So
your time becomes more valuable.
And plus, I don't want to post one thing and take it down, So it just creates the brand too. It damages the brand.
Yeah, you have to stay loyal to the brand, show people.
Make it worth it, Like if anybody wants to be represented on a global scale on a brand, I want to make sure they at least pop up 3 times on my account. So it's not like, oh, he just shouted this person out or posted this person. Like if you're really serious, you got the money, you want to brand yourself, here's how much we charge,
And so, I was reading through your site, some of the things you've done to expand without, inundating people with ads. You found some more creative ways to monetize the business.
Yes. If you notice my account, 99% of the time you won't even see an ad on my account.
Yeah.
I run massive campaigns for people. That's my goal. I mean, that's the way I make money. I also do PR, press, like Huffington Post, Forbes, Inc., New York Times, Wall Street, any one of those big publications, I do that on the background too.
Well, we might be needing some of that sometime soon.
I do a lot of things outside of the brand itself. The brand is almost like the image, the company doesn't need to do anything. It just opens doors and allows me. And, I build, like Sean Thomas from Ask a Millionaire, we helped him build that brand from scratch almost, literally. And he's in the millions.
Yeah, that's...
And right now he's mentoring thousands of people. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's created this opportunity for anyone to go out there and start, teaching people about different things, motivating them. I think it's awesome. But are you worried about any of the possible regulation that's coming up? So if we shift a little bit more to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, having done this for so many years, have you noticed certain trends as far as?
Yeah, well, they are suppressing the engagement for sure. But now we have big communities for like power likes, if they call them power likes and all that stuff, like we used to already do this, before we even named it power like. What I mean by that is like within our little small community, we'd be like, hey bro, when we post, the rules are you got to go like our stuff, you got to engage it, we'll engage you, just a community. So now, but everybody's doing it, so they're trying to go against the algorithm on that and it works. That's how all these accounts go viral and grow real quick.
So could you explain a little more like what a power like is and why they're going against the algorithm?
Yeah, so what happens is, let's say you have 1 million plus followers, I have 1 million plus followers. So when you post something, I come and like it, so it exposes your account to my audience because, they're like, oh shit, Tim liked it, So the people who get online, if they go on the other section outside of the Explore page, they'll see like Tim, there's like so many areas where you can go on your Instagram and you can see what your followers are liking,
Yeah.
You can look at that. So when we do power likes, it pops up there. We could also do follows too. We could unfollow you and follow you, so it looks like we're following that person. Like, oh shoot, why is Daily Dose following this account? Must be important. Like I remember I grew one of my accounts by 70,000 followers by just liking and following it and unfollowing it.
A lot of people use bots to do that now, right? They have
but we're doing it all organically. There's a big risk of you losing your account doing that 3-party, especially now with all that stuff Instagram and Facebook's doing. They're shutting down a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's one thing we haven't done. Is one thing I highly recommend people not to do is not to use any third-party apps for anything. That's why there's so much labor when it comes to Instagram because it's manual labor,
Yeah, and there might be more restrictions as far as third-party, API access coming up.
Yeah, they've taken a lot of it down too. So which is interesting. Like Social Blade is out, which allows you to see kind of like what's going on. And I noticed the other day I lost a few followers. It's like I was mad. I was like, oh shit, why am I losing followers?
Yeah.
It must have been something I posted they didn't like. So it happens, but that's the industry. But here's the thing about it. I think regulation is actually gonna, Facebook has and Instagram has about 20,000 employees. There's over like 2 billion people who utilize these platforms. So there's no way they're gonna be able to manage all this shit, So there's going to be a lot of cracks and things like that. Mark talked about this lately, and you mentioned about the regulation. He said he wants to get some AI, artificial intelligence that's going to manage and all that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's really hard because when you own the account, you almost bypass everything as long as you're not really, promoting some bullshit, lying to somebody, trying to scam somebody. As long as it's realistic, you're still going to be able to get around that, especially on your own channel. That's what the influencer market is such a powerful thing.
So you think it's pretty easy? I mean, I know I've heard a lot about people with, I guess they're somewhat politically affiliated, but they're having problems with censorship or demonetization, I guess. So because the companies are so reliant on ad sponsors, there is more censorship, I guess, as a result, simply of the advertisers.
Yeah, for example, that like even the crypto space, Facebook and they're kind of like pushing out of it. If you're running ads, they won't allow you. But I mean, you're more likely to get that ad out there by paying an influencer to market it for you. Like, hey guys, check out my product. Here's what it is. It works a lot. It works.
Absolutely. That's one of the products we're actually trying to put out, trying to bridge that gap a little bit between content creators and influencers. So sort of the way I think about it is Facebook has created this, massive platform where they're trying to figure out everything about you so they can learn your interests, learn your likes, your purchasing behavior, which really all stemmed from sort of Amazon's algorithms. But the problem is people just get inundated with crap because there's no endorsement of any of these products. And I think that's what people really care about is this page who I trust and who I've followed forever and who hasn't, done me wrong before? Do they endorse this product? Are they willing to put their reputation behind it? And I think that speaks volumes more than just, seeing something laid about on your Facebook page where, anyone can advertise, even foreign governments, for example. So
yeah, and I mean, and we stay away from those things too. I mean, look, when it comes to foreign governments and things like that, they could literally bypass the whole Facebook thing by paying influencers. They might spend a lot more money. I remember when Donald Trump was running for presidency and Hillary Clinton, I had Donald Trump's campaign actually reach out to me and said, "Oh,
really?
we want you to run a post for us. Are you okay with that?" And I said, I don't want to even tell you how much I wanted to charge him. And I was like,
yeah.
Dude, if I do anything, here's how much you guys going to pay because I know there's going to be so many people talking shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with Hillary Clinton. I would have posted Hillary Clinton. They would have been talking shit. So when you get into an arena, it's not the fact that people are going to like, oh, why are you posting this? Just there's going to be so many people that like it and so many people that don't. You're going to get both sides.
Absolutely.
So they decided not to work with me because I tried to charge arm and a leg because it's not worth it. But again, they can bypass all that without running ads by paying influencers big money.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's going to be the future going forward is influencers are going to start getting paid a lot more for the content. Because I think the problem is a lot of influencers don't know what they're worth. For example, winter formal of my high school year, I invited a girl, I think her name is like Stila Babe 09 or something on YouTube, but she's got like 10 million followers on Instagram and 5 million subs on YouTube. And she was making more money than her parents, but the numbers she had were far, well beyond what she was making in paid endorsements from these companies. She was getting, she didn't really have the business sense, so she was getting really screwed when you think about the Super Bowl having between 10 and 30 million people watching, for a couple hours, and then you have 5 to 10 million people watching everything that you do and also trusting you enough to buy whatever you recommend. I think that's a huge advantage that some people have in this arena that, the platforms like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, they've kind of taken advantage of these people because they're doing all the labor, they're bringing the people to the platform, they're creating the content, and then they're really not giving them much for bringing eyes to the screen.
Yeah, but I mean, it just changes your whole lifestyle. Now you have a lot of freedom in this,
Oh, exactly.
I think you want to do it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's creating a new form of entrepreneurship where
it's like a new career. Instead of going to college, you're going to YouTube, you're going to Facebook, you're going to Instagram. And they're making tons of money, and it's just taking over the industry. it's a lot more fun too. Think about this, you know, instead of you having a job, having to go somewhere. I don't want to ever go back to a desk. I'm being honest with you. You know, like one of my things is like, and I'm happy that I've been fortunate to be successful in what I'm doing.
Yeah, no,
I got a degree. It's hanging on the wall. Cool. You know, I know I can go back anytime I want if I get bored.
Yeah,
But you know, there's so much to do. So you know, it's so interesting. You're connecting with new people all the time. Other people who are doing things with their lives. They're hustling and just learning new things and just moving forward, making more money.
exactly.
There's so much. There's over 1,000 ways you can make money on social media. So you can help somebody promote their brand. You can create a product. You know, you could run a campaign. You could do PR. You could literally be a consultant. You know, I mean, there's like you can do everything you want almost on social media because the internet's there.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny you mentioned the degree. I mean, I graduated from college, but it's been worthless to me. And so many of the kids I know, a lot of them coming from, really great schools have had, they still don't have jobs. And, Pablo, who put us in touch, he's our CMO, and he's going to come on tomorrow, I think, because our audience hasn't heard from him yet. But, he skipped college entirely, and he's doing way better than most of these people. And so, taking a different path. Exactly.
I mean, it's stressful, but it's fun at the same time because you just never know where the journey's going to take you. You know, I got some big contracts right now lined up in place. Like, it'll be probably the first of its kind on social media.
Some of the contracts will be the first. So, like the business model behind them, you think will be different?
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is there's a couple videos I listened to a couple weeks ago, and I don't want to endorse anybody by mentioning their names.
Yep.
Or, I don't know if I have the rights to even mention them, but, there's about $80 to $90 billion annually being wasted on 30-second videos, commercials on television. That's slowly going to move towards social media. And these are all multi-billion-dollar companies. So I've been fortunate enough to actually have some of my partners sit down with all these billionaires now. And they're moving their contracts and everything into social media, like saying, hey, we don't want to do that 30-second commercial and spend $2 million when we could spend $2 million annually with you guys,
Yeah, the conversion rates are abysmal. I mean, especially...
And it's brand equity, too.
Yeah.
You're capturing market cap on social media. You don't need to be on CNN no more. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. You could be on every channel there is.
Yeah, I mean, no one's watching. And even things like Google AdWords, I mean, you're paying, but you don't know when your ad is popping up as a pop-up or... they've intentionally made it very vague for people, so they don't really know where their ads are showing up and who they're in front of, just these sort of vague categories. But it almost seems like the targeting of some of these Instagram accounts is even better because you're doing it by interest and passion. And so the people there, why they're there.
Yeah, well, here, at the end of the day, but it's just having an audience. You could have a comedy channel, for example, with 2 million people there who are watching your videos. You have eyes and ears already there, so you could literally almost cater anything to them. As long as something that you think might be like cool and exciting, Like, for example, let's say I'm giving away a trip to Hawaii for free,
Yeah.
Even if it's a comedy page, people are going to be like, holy shit, hey, man, I'm interested in that, Like it'll go from laughing to still being interested in like a Hawaii trip because everybody wants to go to Hawaii, for example, I mean, I'm not sure everybody does, but again, that might still, capture attention of some of your audience where they might be interested. So at the end of the day, just having ears and eyes on your, on your content. You can slowly, drip whatever you want to them.
Do you think it's going to be harder for new people to get into it now that, it's saturated with so many accounts and so many people?
No,
that sort of,
not at all. If you do it the right way, you'll grow. We've been growing accounts, since 2015, so it hasn't been an issue, and we're still doing it. It's not as long as as long as you have content. I mean, obviously, I can't promote you if you're posting your selfies 24/7.
Yeah,
that's not going to work for sure. You got to provide some kind of value. Whether it's comedy, whether it's articles, whether it's publication, whether you're taking some great pictures, you have a photographer, you're out doing something, video, all that stuff.
Just got to provide something for people. That's something Pablo talks about all the time. He says, you got to give to receive. You got to give people something. So that's why we don't run ads on the podcast or anything like that. Just because, I don't think you need to do that to make money. I think a lot of people need to get creative with their business models, and they really haven't. I think that's one of the problems Facebook, Twitter, etc. are having is they've stuck themselves within this business model, and they really haven't moved away from it. There hasn't been any push to get them to change how they're thinking about these ideas. And that's something I think crypto may be able to help with. So we've been experimenting with, CPU mining for engagement. So, instead of essentially becoming the product yourself, getting sold on something, so in the hopes that you'll buy it, but in the process being exposed to God knows how many ads you don't care about or with malevolent intent, you have your computer become the product. Your computer is, running the network. The computer is doing the work while you sit there and you get paid to engage, essentially. And so I think there's some interesting ways you can tie crypto into it. And with that, I was just wondering how you got interested in crypto and what your experience has been with it thus far.
Well, the funny thing is I lost money in crypto because I didn't know what the hell I was doing,
Yeah.
And that's a good thing that happened to a lot of people.
I think it's almost a badge of honor. It means you were playing around with it enough to get hurt.
Yeah, and at the same time, I lost money in Forex too, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was always looking for new ways to make money and expand, And I got in the crypto game when it was like literally just peaking too, when like, oh shit, and it was like, I would say November. I got in November last year, so it wasn't bad. I had a nice little wave, made some money. I got into Ripple when it was 24 cents. I think I sold it at like 275. I forget what it was, like something like that.
Yeah,
it was up
that's
it was peaking,
Yeah, you hit it.
And
at a
the
good
rest,
spot.
but I made the money there, but I lost money on a whole bunch of other crap that I bought that I had no idea.
Yeah,
they weren't worth buying it.
I'm sure you're not alone in that one.
So, but I mean, I realized that some of these, I still have probably about $15,000, or whether up or down in the crypto industry myself, because I mean I'm not a big investor in it, but I mean it's still a lot of money. I'm just waiting for someone to kind of do a little turnaround, or some might die, one might go up, things like that. So the crypto industry is exciting because it's a new wave, and it's not going anywhere. I have a feeling, it just goes up and down for a little bit. You just got to ride a wave and hop out. What really screwed me up in the beginning was day trading. I had no idea anything about day trading.
Just gambling, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I caught a few of them, like really nice wave one time, like $600 a day, like $300 a day, like doing minimal trades. It was stressful too, bud.
Yeah, it's 24 hours a day. You don't even have a chance to sleep.
So now I said, hey, you know what? After like I think end of January, I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna buy and hold. That's it. I don't want to do shit. This is like stressful. I'm losing money.
Yep.
I was losing all the gains by day trading. I was gaining something, but if I would have left it alone, it probably would have got up way better.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's a problem a lot of people have. I think they get because it's exciting. You just see money essentially being printed for you when you win, but the losses add up psychologically, I think.
Yeah, and we are working actually towards. Not full speed right now, but eventually towards our own coin or token, however you want to do it. I don't want to disclose any information on it, but we have a probably crazy model around it. I think it would probably get a lot of people excited to jump behind it in the near future. But I mean, I know that there's a lot of opportunity because it brings the global community together, under the one currency model.
Exactly. I think it's only a matter of time. I mean, you think about back when each state had their own money, it's progress. Eventually, there's going to be a one world currency. It just makes commerce way more efficient. And there are going to be some growing pains. The right people, I think the problem right now is it came too quickly for the people who would put up resistance to get entrenched enough so that it didn't jeopardize their own business. And that's what's sort of happening now. Even today, tax day, you saw I think a 10% increase in the value of Bitcoin right before tax day because people are trying to move their assets over. I know even the Rockefellers are getting into crypto now. So I think it's here to stay for sure because I've been doing this since 2013. So I lost money in Gox. I've been day trading and I did Forex markets before that. But you notice it's not going away, and people have tried very hard to push it down, especially with all the stuff with the dark nets. It got, as far as branding goes, that was a pretty terrible way to get a start. And we're still growing out of that, in my opinion. But I think you're totally right as far as it being here to stay. It's just, it's a matter of what is here to stay and where the value is going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of value, and the thing is, it's just you still just don't know what's going on, but you also want to be part of it. It was kind of like social media, you know. I didn't know where the hell that shit was going, but I knew there was something there, you know. So I just continually committed to doing it. And sometimes in life, you're gonna hit, you know, situations where you got to kind of, I'm not gonna say be stupid, but not blindly go into it. But if you see the opportunity, pursue it. You know, don't
Yep.
hesitate. It might not be like, oh my God, the craziest shit that's happening to you, but it's gonna be way better than that happening to you than you sitting there and nothing happening to you. Because people were making fun of me, you know, on social media. For
Really?
example, yeah, they're like, why are you posting memes, you know, or like quotes and stuff like, oh, Tim, da da da. And then when I hit 1 million followers, like, holy shit, dude, this guy has 1 million followers. Like, oh,
Yeah.
bro, can we hang out?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, just funny.
Yeah. Well, people feel bad that I think they're not doing anything themselves, so it's easier to mock someone than to hop on board because it's always a risk. So you have to be. I've been lucky enough to be, I've never been a risk averse person. I always double down, and I've always hopped on the next train to see where it goes. And worst case, you learn a lot, and that's what people don't realize is even if you lose, you still win to some extent.
Well, I'll tell you something. Not, you know, the oldest rule: you're not playing, you're not winning. You know,
Yeah.
Mark. You know, everything in the game is the only way you can win is if like I mean the lottery itself. If you don't play the lottery, there's no chance you might win that shit, even though there's 1 billion people playing.
Yeah.
You know, but this is a little more. I mean, but the idea behind it, it's not playing the lottery; it's being involved in it. You know. So you figure out what's going on. Same thing with social media. If you're not in it, you're not going to know. If you're not into crypto, you're not going to understand the industry. You're going to go blindly in it because some guy is going to tell you, oh, this is the best thing ever. Go buy some. And you have no idea what it is because Joe told you you're going to go buy it.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we started our news site because our guys have been following this forever, and we just noticed so much crap being pushed around, and a lot of it is hedge funds who are trying to get you to take the other side of a bet, or it's someone just trying to sell you garbage and take your money and run. And I think there's been less of that, which is good, but there's always going to be that person. And tying that back, in high school, I remember I still to this day have kids asking me, how did you do all this stuff, how can I get started? And the answer is just don't sit on your ass. If you're sitting on your ass at home, you know, watching TV, nothing is going to happen to you. It doesn't just miraculously happen. You have to get out there. You have to do something, at least meet people, become a part of something, get interested. And that's, I think the hardest part is just taking that first step. And then once you're in it, it's not that hard to meet people and figure out ways to exist within these industries that are sort of fringe right now, but becoming more mainstream as a lot of the traditional jobs are dying out. I don't think manufacturing is here to stay, and if it is, it's going to be automated fairly soon. So we have to find new ways to employ ourselves, and you've done exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey, bro. Up and down, stress, anxiety from it, not knowing what the hell's going on. But it's exciting. You're living life, I mean, some people don't have the opportunity to do it like that, but I've been fortunate, that I committed to this and figured some things out and just decided to ride a wave. And who knows where it's going, but I know it's going somewhere great. It's fun and it's exciting. It's not boring. Most definitely I'm not in my comfort zone at all. 24/7 is a roller coaster ride, up, down, up, down.
Yeah, you have to be, I think, mentally capable or mentally prepared for all those ups and downs because they're always going to come. But if they don't, then what's the point? I guess I know a guy who graduated, top of his class at best business school in the world, and you can get a job at some consulting company and your next vacation is retirement. That's how a lot of these guys think about it. They're like, why don't you go to Europe? And they'll say, well, maybe when I retire, because you get trapped in this sort of cycle.
Yeah,
And so
it's called the poverty circle, man.
yeah, I mean, he's probably never going to be, poor for sure, but you're also, there are other freedoms you lose, I think, and that's something important that people don't realize often is, you're trading something for security and peace of mind, and you're never going to get to the highest highs if you aren't willing to suffer through the lowest lows.
Yeah, well, if you're not willing to, go through the hard times, man, sometimes you don't deserve the good times too. But I mean, sometimes some people are lucky, man, in life, and I was never that lucky and fortunate. I had to work really hard for everything. So, and that goes for like 99% of the majority of people, 99.99% of people that are there.
So when you were working in the healthcare sector, what was it that really made you want to move on? And if we can maybe tie this back to blockchain, which I was hoping to do, and find some of the parts of the healthcare sector that really could be made more efficient, things that you noticed that were in deep need of, modernization, because that's something that's been talked about is blockchain applications all over, from healthcare, medical records, to just
Yeah.
patient scheduling.
Yeah, that's still
There's a
not.
lot of waste
I
there.
mean, even the EMR, the electronic medical records and things like that, they're still not connected with other technologies. So it's almost kind of like if you got one for all your hospitals, that's cool. You guys get to utilize Epic, for example. Someone else gets to utilize like NextGen. They're all big software companies. And again, it limits you because if I'm with Epic, I don't have access to NextGen. And if you're coming from a different hospital system to this one, we still got to ask them for information and all that stuff. So that creates problems. People end up doing repeating services. That a lot of problems in healthcare happens to a lot of repeat services too. And that's where I think a lot of costs could be actually kicked out. But yeah, my background was healthcare for 10 years, and before that, we didn't have EMR when I got in the industry. Some doctors had their own personal. But it just sucked the fact that you had to do everything manually, and then you had to request and send a fax in. It was so slow.
Yeah, that was my entire summer job, was just filing and pulling files back and forth. So you had a whole person, and even when the electronic systems came in, just the transition of teaching everyone the new system and moving every file into it by scanning each paper, it was a nightmare. I think a lot of people just kind of put off, and still today you don't have that.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. Some of these big companies like Kaiser Permanente and things like that, they've been using it, but it's almost like their own little internal network.
Yeah, exactly.
And your dad's practice, he's gonna have to probably still get file paperwork and things like that faxed in, filed in, take it, upload it, scan it in, all that stuff. It's still doing that, which is still costly. They're killing trees still at the end of the day.
So what was your involvement in the sector more specifically? What did you?
Oh, I was more in the development. Like for example, like um, I could literally build a health center from scratch. From what I'm talking about, from building specs to Title 22, Title 24 regulations, to hiring employees, doctors, providers, from policy to procedures to orientation manuals, to education and training. I did everything you can
Wow.
think of, other than clinical work. I helped
Okay.
write a lot of policies according towards, of course, healthcare laws and things like that, within a limitation of what the doctors can do. But
Yeah.
doctors were the ones who wrote up basically the standing orders, like the medical director. But I did everything. I could build a health center from scratch, including licensing with the state of California, since I live in the state of California, but
Yeah.
maybe any state.
Yeah.
So I worked for, I was building FQHCs. They're called federally healthcare centers, federally qualified health center. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. So the government gives you a large grant annually once you become an FQHC official. First, they're lookalikes. There's, I think, about 1,500 of them nationwide. There's a big portion of the healthcare funds that goes allocated towards that.
So are they like clinics, or
They're clinics. They're
Okay.
primary care facilities, which are basically PCMYs, which is primary medical home. Um, and what it does is it allows, let's say, a primary care doctor clinic, which is run by a nonprofit, to have orthopedic, dentistry. You have your own 340B drugs, which is a lot cheaper medication because the government gives you reduced pricing. I mean, you could literally have the whole 10 yards within that primary care facility if you want. Like you can have mental health, you can have whatever shrinks there. You can have counseling, you can have your own medication, your own surgery center. Like you can have the whole 10 yards in that primary care facility, which becomes part of the FQHC. It is what it does. The government gives you a cap, like county services. The county clinics. When you go
Yep.
there, they kind of same thing, except on a more private, nonprofit base.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess while you're building these, I mean, so you get to sort of start from scratch.
I've done it a couple times. I've even saved a whole bunch from collapsing too. which was scary
Yeah, I'd
organizations.
imagine that. Yeah, so that
The
seems like a
stress.
huge problem. Is
It's a big stress, dude. Let's say that. I was really passionate about the industry. I still am. I love the fact that I help people save some lives, create a health center in places that nobody gave a shit about.
yeah,
We were building health centers, and where in that community, the only thing there was a McDonald's and a freaking police station and a
wow,
recycling place, and everybody ate
yeah,
hamburgers. Like super unhealthy. And the houses were all boxed up, like a community that nobody gave a shit about. And we were building health centers in those kind of places where those people they didn't die.
wow, yeah. I mean, that's where they need them the most. I think, and that's what I think is kind of unfortunate. Is if these things were done more efficiently, you'd have so much more money to spend on all these things that are really lacking right now.
Yeah, and don't forget data. We talk about Facebook data, Instagram, all those big, companies. If the system was done the right way, because I mean, every FQHC and hospital has to do something called a UDS report, which means annually you got to talk about how many of your clients' patients, had hypertension or their glucose levels were high, which is like diabetes was, and all that stuff. You got to tell them all that stuff. How many were pregnant? How many had this happen? How many were women with this? You send that data, manually inputting it in. And the problem behind that is these guys basically could put in the data however they want, so they look good. But when the system can automate that information from you from just patient experience, I mean, just going to make the life easier because your data is going to be a lot more accurate, and you're going to know that your clinic needs to focus more on women, for example, women's health.
Yeah.
Right now they don't even know what to focus on. They focus on everything.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about. Wearable devices and monitors, I think, are going to be hugely important going forward because you can catch all of this stuff much earlier on. And a lot of the problem seems to be, there's so much specialization that you go and see someone for a general, and they're probably just going to patch you up and get you out of there as quickly as they can. But you need someone following up, keeping an eye on certain things.
Yeah, and the thing about healthcare too is, that I really it kind of breaks my heart is how the hospital systems actually don't give a shit about you unless they're getting paid.
Yeah.
They'll just literally patch you up and be like, go home.
Yeah, and tying that in with the pharmaceutical industry, it's really interesting because the whole insurance process has just made everything so absorbently expensive, especially if you're a cash patient. They have these giant lists of what they're going to charge for, an Advil, and it's like $10, and that's so that they can negotiate with the insurance down to $2. And they've created this whole system predicated on the idea that there's going to be an insurance provider. And when it's not, it's typically the government who's paying, and they're getting screwed in the same way. And it seems like, at the hospital level, that is probably where the biggest gains can be had, especially if you're putting medical records and stats, on a private ledger, but on a blockchain. You can get all this data anywhere it needs to go with, certain keys to get into it. And that's something I've thought a lot about because healthcare costs have just gotten insane, especially, I spent a semester in Copenhagen, Denmark. So I got to see, from the socialist point of view, that's not where I stand, but, you get to see how these things work in other countries. I think that's hugely helpful. And one of the main differences is everyone over there is so healthy. They're biking 10 miles a day to work. Um, and so maybe the problems aren't as big, but the problems are very different everywhere we go. And we always try to compare ourselves to other places.
Yeah, when you see someone doing it right, the better way, you want to do the same thing. That's normal. If you got a better strategy to it, why not implement that? It's not going to kill us.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're a $43 trillion GDP annually. So we're a huge economy. Like we're like wrapping around the world 3 times.
Yeah.
And we don't even have healthcare for our citizens, which is crazy. We still have the middleman involved in it, which is the hospital. I mean, which is the insurance plans. I mean, think about it. When you go buy a mortgage, you go to the bank. You don't go to the middleman guy who talks to the bank and says, "Okay, pay this guy."
Yeah.
Buy a house. You're always dealing over here. We're going through, from the hospital to the patient to the insurance companies. There's a middleman just taking money for you.
Yep. No, exactly. And yeah, I think the problem is there's so many places where things can get held up, where there can be waste, and where people are just paying way more than they should, and they don't even know what it costs. There aren't, price price lists in front of some doctor's office. You have no idea, and everyone wants the best care. And I think it's hard coming from a family of doctors to see, you know, all these doctors really do just want to do what's best for all their patients. I think, my dad
Yeah.
did tons of elective surgeries. So just giving the doctors the ability to be good people and giving them the time to do it, if they weren't so busy taking notes after, every single thing and dictating and running the office a certain way, they have so much on their plate. But if you give them more time, I think most of them are really great people. They just don't tend to know how to operate an office super well, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I mean, a doctor should just be a doctor. They shouldn't be worrying about those stuff.
Yep.
And that's where it is when you start moving people out of their area. They start doing things.
Yeah, I mean, a doctor is essentially an entrepreneur in a lot of ways that never gets an education in it. And, they've spent all of their time so focused on the medical aspect, they just get kind of thrown into all the rest of the stuff that goes along with it. And, it takes some learning, and a lot of them never quite catch up.
Yeah, and it sucks, man, because they come out with the mortgage.
Yeah, I mean, I broke my hip when I was a senior in college or in high school.
Oh shit, that
And
sucks, dude.
yeah, so that was let's see, cost me $60,000 for that surgery. Insurance, luckily paid, but $60,000 is more than most people take home in a year. And right after that, they hook you up with the painkillers, and then once you come off those, you're still all messed up in all sorts of ways. So they put you on something else, and so seeing the system from the outside and then going through the system on the inside, it's really interesting to see how many bad judgments there are, and how much more money I cost the insurance company just because certain people weren't paying attention. And a lot of people who don't have anyone looking out for them, luckily coming from a family of doctors, you have a whole bunch of doctors within your network. You know who the best ones are, you know where to go. But most people don't have that, so they go wherever they can. And the problem with that is you get a lot of shady doctors, especially psychiatrists. I had a nightmare talking to those guys because they're just willing to write you a prescription and have you walk out the door with, whatever you really want. And then you're hooked for life on those things because they don't really have a plan to get you off of a lot of it. But, that's a little bit of a tangent, but it is interesting to see where the sector is going and the grievances people have. And, we're really not doing much to address the underlying issues. I don't think pouring more money into it is going to help necessarily. But I think doing it more efficiently is really what needs to happen. You could even have, you could have Medicare coins or something. You can track each coin through the entire system, see where it goes, at each peg, see what it's being spent on, how much is being spent. So there are all sorts of interesting applications that I hope, the government especially will adapt with blockchain to do some of that.
To be honest with you, I don't know if you watched Mark's interview with
Yeah,
Facebook.
I did.
Dude, it was like, what are these guys asking?
It was, the way I put it was, it was a bunch of old people trying to understand the internet while Mark was trying to understand how to talk to people.
Yeah, like, how do I talk to these guys? What are they talking about, dude?
Yeah, exactly.
It was just comedy, and just the fact that they're so disconnected, which kind of scares the shit out of me, because they'll start regulating things they don't even know what it is,
Oh yeah, and I mean they don't even read the bills anymore. They don't even lie about reading them, and that's actually my sort of superordinate goal. Is I'd like to run for Congress in our district in California.
Oh, that'd be cool, man. I'll vote for you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's my.
If you run for
goal.
Congress, I'll run for Senate, bro.
Hey, let's do it. But I mean, that's the thing. You need young people, or at least younger people in there who get this stuff, because this is clearly the future. And if you don't pay attention, you don't know what's going on beforehand, you're gonna have to be taking reactive measures all the time, and those are never going to be good for people because you're just trying to put a patch on something instead of thinking about it beforehand. I mean, have you been interested in politics? Is that something you pay a lot of attention to?
Well, I mean, Mike, the healthcare career is very political here in Northern California, especially when you got the capital right here in Sacramento, you know?
Yeah.
So I used to go to all the policy hearings. I've been to state secretary's office, and I remember when Arnold was president, he sent everybody Bulls nuts, saying, "You guys gonna need this to make a decision," you know. So I've been to a lot of lobbyist hearings and things like that. Some of my buddies were actually consulting the state of California, like the New America Foundation,
Okay.
Bay Area Council. You know, I've had some really powerful friends. Like they're all elite. At one point I was, I think, considered, if I remember right, as one of the top 10 elite healthcare professionals.
Wow.
And I got invited by a House of Representatives to go to Washington actually a couple times. Never went because I really didn't care much. But locally, I've been very involved because Sacramento is probably one of the most political industries when it comes to healthcare. It's all politics.
Yeah, I remember I used to be involved in a program called Youth in Government, and we'd go up there every year and pretend we were in the legislature. They'd give us actual access. I think it was during one of their recesses, and we'd go up there and pretend we were passing bills. But it almost seemed like we were doing more than they were when we were there. And from what I've seen, especially in California, it seems like the congressmen are not really thinking through the repercussions of a lot of the legislation that they go through.
Well, I mean, they're just protecting their constituents. Think about it. If you're the one donating money, big chunks of money, they could do a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I think.
They're
Well, I
just
think the
protecting-
problem.
I mean, it's
problem
money.
as well.
Money in politics is actually in American politics is actually what dictates everything, and somewhat civil rights and movements like that.
Yeah, I think that can be some of the problem though. Is the money isn't necessarily with the constituents either. So the money.
Yeah, the
a
big
lot of
big
times seems to
corporates.
go. Yeah, it goes against the constituents'
Well,
interests.
think about this, but and I don't want to get into too much politics,
Sure.
but at the end of the day, let's say you're a candidate and the big pharmas and everybody likes it, you got to do what they're saying, because if you don't do what they're saying, they're gonna be like, okay, we're gonna bring up Tim next, the next campaign is gonna be around
Yep.
Tim. Sorry, but sorry, Mark, we don't like you anymore.
Yeah.
We're gonna put a lot of money behind Tim. We're gonna make him look like Jesus. He's gonna win. And You
Yeah.
can go home and chill out, bro. You didn't, you're not cool enough to hang out with us anymore. And Tim comes up now. Tim got to do everything they dictate him because they're the one electing him.
Yeah, I think that's the problem too. It's career politicians. I don't think that was ever the intention.
Yeah, and
way back when.
one of my professors always said this: that you can be the most, you can be a person with integrity, morals, and values. As soon as you become a politician, you have none of that shit.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose all that. It just automatically does that to you. So, but
Yeah.
I mean, hey, guess what? It's a great business opportunity if you want to look at it that way. You want to make most of these politicians go in with a public salary, come out millionaires. You're like,
Oh yeah,
what
I
the
know.
hell?
It's like, those numbers don't.
Like,
quite
think
add
about it.
up.
It's like Hillary Clinton was a public servant for like 25 years. She's a billionaire. They're like, what kind of public service are you doing? Shit,
Yep, no, all of them. Maxine Waters
Yeah,
has
even
4
Obama,
houses.
even Trump. I mean, every single one of these guys come out very successful. Like, dude, you got a $250,000 salary. You live in a $7 million house. How is that possible?
Yeah,
If I was doing that, the IRS and the FBI would be visiting me right now. Like, hey, okay, you make $250,000. How are you living in this $7 million
it's
house,
funny,
dude?
funny
Yeah.
how that works. And
Yeah, it
that's,
doesn't make
that's one
sense,
thing.
dude.
That's one reason I was really attracted to entrepreneurship, because I've always loved all sorts of stuff. But before I would ever run for office, I would want to be rich enough to never have to worry about that stuff, and also not want it so badly that I would compromise those things just to do it again. And I think that's the problem, is you have people who just want it so bad, and that's really not what you want. But interestingly enough, Trump actually, I think, is down $1 billion since getting elected.
Oh, I wouldn't be doubting it.
Yeah. So
I'm at the stage now in my life where I feel like if someone could help me save some money, I'm happy, man. They've
Yeah.
already milked the shit out of me,
yeah,
with my
exactly.
taxes, because I'm, single, I'm not married, so they take a lot of money from me, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, like at least Trump, because none of these guys are really gonna do shit for us, bro. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
if I'm really poor, thank God for all the community services out there that I can utilize. But I don't want to live at that level, so I got to work and create my own, everything, my own job, my own career, my own future, my own healthcare. I got to pay for all that shit
Yeah.
on my own. No one's paying for that shit.
Yeah, you've
At
built
the same
it all
time, I got to
yourself.
help out people in my community who are in need.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, is just forcing that, because I think most people left to their own devices are going to help each other out, and that's why I've always thought, decentralizing everything is the key. If you have a centralized government, you're going to have the least number of people happy because you're going to try and broadly apply some one law to 350 million people instead of taking it to the city or state level where, you could have a group of, 10,000 people deciding the laws of their city, and then those are the laws they realistically have to abide by during their life. And if they don't want to, then pack your bags, go buy a place at the next city over. And I'm hoping the direction things go, but I do worry with some of the tech stuff. It could get to the point where we're in a big brother kind of scenario when you look at, how much data a company like Google has on us. And also some of the things other countries are starting to test out. I don't know if have you looked into what China is doing at all with it's like a social credit score.
No, told you I haven't.
It's really interesting. So they've created this system. It's like a credit score for everything you do, and they've put enough cameras in China that they can identify all 1.3 billion people simultaneously at any time. And so they're tracking people all the time. And if you jaywalk, then you get a nick. And if you,
Really?
volunteer, then you get a point. Yeah, and based on your score, you have access to certain things like buses or airplanes. So they'll actually restrict you if you don't have good scores. And so it almost seems to be moving in that direction. Like China is kind of a testing ground for that stuff. I'm sure it'll happen over there. They don't have much of a say, but it almost seems like what these companies were trying to do before Trump was a lot of that. And to some extent, Trump brought a lot of it to light. And I'm hoping, I guess I'm not sure where you stand as far as, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Obviously, they've helped you massively. But, would you be open to alternatives to some of those services? Do you think the brands themselves have become sort of tainted by a lot of this?
But I mean, if you can reiterate the question, what do you
Sure.
mean by that?
Yeah, so, there is really one thing Zuckerberg kept getting asked is what is the competitor to Facebook? Where else can someone go? Is,
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've already talked about this with my buddy. So the reason Facebook is actually doing good, see, they kept Facebook and Instagram separate in a sense. And Facebook is actually, Instagram is a lot more of the influencer market space because Instagram could have shut down the influencer market cap. But they've realized that if they shut down the influencer market cap and try to take over the influencer arena, they're going to be considered a monopoly.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
and
so
that's exactly what Google did with Alphabet too.
Yes. So by them allowing us influencers to still make money off the platform, it doesn't make them a monopoly. But the minute they shut us down, the government will hit them, and they know that too. So they're utilizing that, and also they need us too at the same time. But yeah, they are powerful. And you know what? I don't want to have 50 different platforms, to be honest with you. I like the fact that we have one I can go there and talk to everybody. How many apps do you have in your phone? Like 30 apps probably.
Yeah.
I don't want to have 30 apps. I got a shitload of apps too. I want to make sure if it's Twitter, it's Twitter. If it's Instagram, Instagram. If you're using Snapchat, go ahead. I don't even use Snapchat because they killed it basically. But I like the fact that I can go on Facebook and Instagram, and it's enough for me to communicate with everybody. It's enough for me to find everybody, and things like that. And I can Google search someone's name and maybe find a little more detail about them. It makes my life a lot easier not having to go 50 different locations. Splitting them up doesn't make a difference. They're still going to be the most powerful. They're going to find a way to split it the right way.
Yeah.
It's still going to be in their control. It's not going to change shit, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking more of like an alternative. So if something else were to take, and I think that's where crypto is really interesting, and this is something we're trying to take advantage of in our business models is, in my opinion, tech's weakness, especially social media, is the lack of commerce. So you look at the size or the revenues of, just really middle of the road financial firms versus a company like Twitter where you have this huge brand exposure, but you're making, $600 million a year, whereas Goldman Sachs took home $108 billion last year. So, their weakness in a lot of ways is their ability to monetize, I think. And you can decentralize, using blockchain, you can decentralize a lot of these services, and adding crypto, you can reduce all of the transaction fees across the board. So you have a lot of these content creators moving to Patreon, for example. Patreon, I think, is 5% plus 2.9% transaction fees. With crypto, you can make it 0%. You can make it 2% and still be making 2% profit for the most part. And I think I would love your take on this. Have you noticed a lot of, maybe not within your specific segment of the influencer market, but a lot of influencers moving more towards fan sponsored businesses as opposed to ad sponsored?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm telling you. Most of the time, people are doing actually fan-sponsored ads, It looks like almost like it's organic, it's natural. They're collaborating and doing things. Ads are cool, too, don't get me wrong. Just people just don't like seeing that shit. It looks weird. As soon as you see that sponsor sign, it just looks weird.
Oh, absolutely. You think it's a scam?
Yeah, it's not that you think it's a scam. It's just automatically not interested,
Yeah, well, I guess I was thinking like Yahoo News has sponsored news articles, and I think those are super misleading because you'll see tons of scams and things like that. Maybe not Instagram more specifically, but
yeah, you can see that. Like for example, I think the scam part when it comes to press or PR or anything like that as a publisher is when somebody starts lying about who they are and what they do. It's hard to fact check that information unless someone's gonna provide you their bank statements and things like that.
Yeah.
But you just got to be careful about who you're publishing, and you just got to do a little bit of review, see how the community interacts with them. If they like them, then you put out some relevant information around a business. How long has a business been around? Those are things you want to look at. But yeah, social media is the avenue actually for crypto too. I think the only way cryptocurrency is actually going to be moving forward is through social media, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and social media actually made that whole thing pop off. If you really think about it, the whole Bitcoin being worth so much money was because of social media.
Yeah, you have a lot of people, with the ability to network and come together to do things.
People are getting their news on social media, bud. 90% of people get their
hugely.
news off, if not more.
Yeah, I think that's some of what people were worried about, with Facebook is.
Oh, of course, the government's scared, dude.
Who's deciding what news you're seeing as well,
Well, not only that, I don't know if you've seen that article where Homeland Security is literally trying to hire people to keep tabs on influencers now.
Really?
And personalities, yeah.
To see who has a following and if they're spreading certain ideas.
Yeah, they're being intimidated. They're scared, dude, because now the power of social media,
Yeah.
Like now I can get up and say something and like 70,000 people will see it, for example, 100,000 people will see it.
Yeah, and that's, something they've talked about is holding these platforms responsible.
For what? For what I do? That's going to be hard, dude.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is holding them responsible for illegal or illicit activity that happens.
No, it's going to be really hard because at the end of the day, it's going to be really hard. Yeah, you could take them to jail and all that stuff, but you're not going to be able to go to Facebook like, why'd you let him post fuck you, for example?
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's like freedom of speech. Number two, I can't monitor like every single guy and girl in the world and what they say. Obviously, we know, but, it's television. Yeah. Why are you allowing porno on television? Why are you allowing some of the most nastiest shit on television,
Yeah, I think that's what people like about the internet is some of the authenticity. You have the FCC telling you can't curse and you can't, do this and that. And it just feels fake. It feels too manicured.
What are you going to do? Put a rated R sign next to your freaking content? I mean, think about it, like, oh, it's rated R, guys.
What I would worry about is kind of what's happened in the EU is they've passed certain hate speech laws, and so they'll imprison people for saying anything, that can be interpreted as hateful, which is a very vague term. Anything can be hateful in theory. But they actually have been monitoring a lot of these forums and picking people up, putting them in jail. And so it's the selective enforcement that I think is worrisome.
Well, look, I'll tell you something. If they can control what you say, whether hateful, that means they can control what you say in any category. So
absolutely.
When we start controlling society on saying you can say this, you can't say that, that means now we have an option of telling you exactly what you can say and what you can't say. When we allow government and people like that to dictate, that's where the dangerous part happens. I'm not for hateful speech, hell no. But at the same time,
I don't think anyone is.
I don't want to, because tomorrow they might tell me that, hey, you need to say I love you every single time. Like, no, I don't want to say I love you every single time.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have the most positive, encouraging, stuff. No, I want to vent today, for example.
Yeah.
That's not okay. You can't vent. What? So I mean, that's the factor. But I love the fact social media allows you to do that. Yeah, okay. You got an account deleted, build another one, do it again.
Yeah.
Just gives you that freedom, and I think that's why even the regulation is not going to work too well. Because it's a community. Mark wants to keep it a community where we we are the contribute. We are he is the biggest publishing house, but he's not publishing. We are.
Yeah. So do you think, this is one thing that's really confused me. A lot of these social media companies seem to be doing things that are actually scaring people away or cutting into their revenues. So, when YouTube starts to demonetize certain channels, they're scaring away revenue, or when Twitter blocks a bunch of users, they're pushing away users and engagement. Do you think they're doing too much to curate their community a certain way and that they should leave people more free? Do you think they're sort of aware? Because it seems sort of antithetical to what you would want to do to grow a business.
Yeah, well, they're trying to control the market cap, the market space too, as a business model. And sometimes they feel like they're losing control too, which I think they have. Instagram's lost control a long time ago.
Yeah.
But they like the fact that what we're doing on Instagram is there. Twitter, same thing. Twitter doesn't even know what the hell they're doing, to be honest with you. So they've been losing since day one in the first place. But, I mean, there's companies thinking they know what's best for the community. They're thinking they know what's the best for you and how it's going to benefit everybody, at the same time. And they're willing to take you out of the picture to make everybody else win, for example, including themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, if you own 300 million in network on Instagram, I'm pretty sure Instagram company will look at you as a threat, And so would the government, because at any finger point you could put out, what type of message you want to put out in the world, and you get attention, Yeah, they would consider you very dangerous. Of course, politicians and things like that would probably love you, because you could push a message out real quick according to their, favoring them or whatever it is,
Exactly. Yeah.
Including the product companies too. The brands would pay big money for that because you could put so much eyes on their product and their brand. I mean, Instagram, social media is such a vital tool to every single business model that you're going to operate in life moving forward,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If you're selling tires, cool, you need a social media account. You're selling pencils, you're going to need a social media. You're selling, shoes, you need a social media account. You're talking about crypto, you need a social media account. What the hell are you going to talk about this shit if you don't talk about it there?
Yeah, it's the future, and I think that's one reason. I think it is sort of unfortunate that they've kicked all the crypto off of those. Especially I guess like Google AdWords, for example. It seems like Google could leave some crypto in there. But do you think maybe they see it as a threat and that's why they did it?
No, I think what's happening really, to be honest with you, it's not even a threat. I think a lot of people lost money.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to be part of that culture saying we allowed people to scam people, because there was a lot of scams happening.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's the biggest factor that's actually when it comes to FCC and all that. They usually get involved when it comes to people losing big money,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure people went and dumped their mortgages,
Yeah,
into things like
a lot
that.
of those,
yeah,
a lot of those ICOs. It's like, wow, it's unbelievable how much money they were raising for something that didn't even exist.
Yeah, and they're still doing it. So I think that's the reason they said, oh, you know what, we want to kind of make it harder for these guys who are scamming the system, And I think that's where the big problem happened, because they couldn't control it, because there were scams happening left and right. If they could have controlled it, it would have been a little less, because they would have put so many people behind bars,
Have you noticed more crypto companies coming to influencers now that that's happened?
I've noticed they've been trying to, yeah, and that's something I stay away from personally myself, unless I know the founders, like, literally. But I stay away from that, so I'm like, sorry, I can't endorse that, because tomorrow you might not be around, and I'm going to look like an idiot for endorsing you.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it seems like a good rule of thumb. It seems like, that's how it always should be. You should have to put your brand and your reputation behind whatever you're selling to the people who follow you.
Yeah, because I plan on doing this for the rest of my life, and then maybe handing it down to somebody, or maybe selling it off in the future, who knows, So I want to make sure it stays reputable, because people look up to us. Young kids are being influenced and inspired, to do things with their lives. I want to put a positive message out there in the world.
Yeah, no, and people need someone to look to, I think, now more than ever, especially on social media. That's where you are a lot of the day. You're going to want someone there kind of pushing you in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, it's all about personality, but at the end of the day, the reason, somebody becomes somebody on social media is because they have integrity, they have values, they have morals, they stand up for it, they put great information out in the world, and they connect with people. Those are some of the things you got to do. And I mean, and you have to be you. People are afraid of being themselves, So,
yeah, authenticity is key.
Yeah, it's key. I mean, people are not celebrities because they look like somebody else. It's because of who they are, unique characters.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I got into entrepreneurship because, I wanted to do something where I wasn't going to be censored. I didn't have to follow some employee handbook that someone else decided I had to
Yeah,
follow.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a lot more stressful, a lot more work.
Oh, yeah.
But guess what? You get to create your own journey. You get to create your own schedules. You could be in Hawaii. You could be in Bahamas. You could be in St. Louis. Wherever the hell you want, doing whatever the hell you want with whoever. It just gives you that freedom of not being bound to a certain time, location, or place.
Yeah, and I think that's what scares me about some of the censorship stuff on social media. So we're gonna do an episode, I think on Monday, on QAnon. I don't know if you've heard anything about QAnon, um, but it's like a 4chan leaker essentially, who a lot of people think is Trump. And one thing we really had to think about is if we put this out, it's likely our SEO is going to be impacted. It's something we've noticed with a lot of other people trying to put out similar content. Even, like people like Alex Jones on YouTube, they see their stuff pushed out because they have like you said, they don't have that many people looking over this stuff. So what they do is they have algorithms trying to figure out if you like pages that have also been linked to this thing. And you get lumped into this black book of people who they've decided are
No
not
good.
someone. Yeah. So that was something we worried about. But at the same time, the whole reason we're doing this is so that we can do what we want and talk about what we want and get ideas out. So of course, we're doing it anyway. But it is interesting to see some of that happening and worrisome to me, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's the culture, bud.
But
It's you're gonna see things change real quick. That's
yeah,
social media. Trends change real quick. Things become cool. Things become irrelevant.
absolutely. And
And
so I guess
that's where we live at today.
yeah, and quicker than ever too. Trends go in and out, so fast just because information spreads so quickly now. And that's changing. Everyone's on a much quicker timeline as far as even the pace of news. It used to be you'd have a news cycle just on one story if something big happened, and now, you're getting every, 12 hours something big is happening, or, a
Yeah,
few
or
times a day.
changing. Yeah, they're changing things up every single minute. And that's the culture, bro.
Yeah,
And because they're trying to keep people's attention.
that's true. Yeah, it's much harder to get people engaged now because they have so many other options.
Yeah, I got to be crazy in order to look for them to stop and oh shit.
Yeah, and so you just get more and more people on the fringes getting more and more exposure.
And that's and it's the social media culture too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess sort of one final question, sort of looking through a lot of your posts, I guess the focus, I guess, is so you'd say the focus is entrepreneurship, success, a lot of like luxury lifestyle. Do you think most people getting into entrepreneurship, really use the money as the, the means of inspiration and motivation, and that's sort of what you're trying to cater to?
Well, I mean, I don't know about the money part, but here, I believe that every single one of us needs encouragement every day, regardless
Yeah.
of what the hell you're doing. Whether you're a teacher, because we need teachers, we need firemen, we need, police officers, regardless of that, everybody needs inspiration, including the entrepreneur who's getting up, motivating himself. We're all going to have ups and downs regardless of what career we have. So, if I'm going to make money motivating and inspiring people, I'm going to be hella happy in that area, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, it's a means of opportunity to connect with people. So, the inspiration, motivation just opens door of engagement for me to talk about something else with certain people, like you, for example,
Yeah.
It just always opens doors. So, that's about it in a sense.
Yeah. No, I guess thinking about it, the best way to do it is, showing people that you can make lots of money doing what you love is really the key, I guess.
Yeah,
So
well,
don't
you
have to
can.
compromise.
I went to an industry I had no knowledge about, but so if anybody's listening to this, you can accomplish anything you want in this life as long as you put your mind and heart to it, and be consistent and be relentless towards your pursuit. Yeah, you're gonna have a little bit of sleepless nights, but hey, I did it for 2 years.
Yeah.
My schedule sucked.
Yeah, exactly. I've been
The
doing
third
20-hour
year,
days for a while.
yeah, my third year is when I started balancing my sleep back to normal. It was really hard, because I was
Yeah.
still used to going to sleep late.
Yeah, you can't
I
get
remember going to sleep when everybody was waking up.
Yeah, I go to sleep from about 8 a.m. to noon these days. So.
Yeah, not good.
No.
That's not healthy, bro.
But
So
when you're waking up every day excited to do what you're gonna do, it's almost like sleep feels like a nuisance. I think that is the cool part.
yeah, well, because you're moving forward, man, and you're pursuing something you're passionate about until it
Exactly.
changes to something else, but you're still pursuing it.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. I really appreciate you coming on. If there's anything you wanted to close with, I'm gonna put all of your pages in the description for people to check them out. But if there's anything else,
No, I just want to thank everybody who listened to this, conversation we had. I'm really thankful, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you too, Mark, for having me here.
yeah,
You've been a
anytime.
blessing to me. So, yeah, if anybody has any questions around this conversation, I know we can go a little deeper. Let them reach out to you, Mark, and maybe we can do another conversation around the specific topics that they might be interested in.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
Yep, and thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back with another episode soon.